Like, they've not had opportunity to boost those stats just yet. But let's start to talk a little bit about this draft, because obviously, across the course of today, we've seen many different styles of draft from many different teams. What is the expectation coming in? Or are these both teams that you can definitely go any direction with?
Yeah, the key is denying comfort picks, but also making sure that you don't let a team kit like Baptiste Cath, for example. Like, starting over loves KESTREL. He's played that very well. Old School likes Vox. You can tell he's picking Vox a lot. So there's a lot of specific hero picks that we will see either banned or first pick and taken away.
I would not actually be shocked if we did end up getting like a KESTREL Vox banned away right off the bat, but Cloud9, they're going to stick to this Catherine ban. I'm surprised that they're banning it first because they could pick it. I mean, it is such a huge pick, and we know it's a pick that they do play, but they'd rather just say, you know what, let's just take care of that entire Baptiste Catherine conversation right away and not have it even be a relevant
they'll probably
factor.
take Grace here since it's open and Vox is banned, and Hammers will probably take the Baron, I'm assuming here, and then ban away like IDRIS, for example. But instead, they're going to go with KESTREL. KESTREL Grace is very interesting because if the Grace plays properly, you can get on that KESTREL so easily. Benediction is level 1 max, has a range 9. So it can get on the KESTREL quickly and then flare her, and then they can delete her. So IDRIS will still be banned, but Baron is up. So does Cloud9 play Baron? Hammers must assume that they don't.
Well, that is going to be Lyra taken off the board, as well as the IDRIS, and Baptiste locked on in for Hammers. So that's likely going over to Archaic, but it could well be an Afro special either. Definitely a flexible pick, as is the KESTREL. So far, Hammers not really giving away too much about their composition.
Yeah, and they're, again, allowing this Baron to go through, even though, well, we haven't seen it a ton from Cloud9. We have seen it a couple of times, so it's not something that they're completely averse to playing, but they may just be worried about taking it into the Baptiste. While yes, Baron can jump out of an Ordained once he has the jump jets overdriven, it is still a lot of damage, and if they can find a way to protect Baptiste in any manner, then it can be trouble. But I mean, I feel like Baron actually does quite well.
Yeah, Baron would be
Baptiste,
great here,
so
but they might go for Ringo or ADAGIO Grumpjaw here, potentially.
Yeah,
or Glaive,
ADAGIO.
actually. Glaive is actually better into KESTREL because of his ability to afterburn and displace her. Or even Cruel, just to get on her, block the stun, and then just kill her and stun her. So Cruel and I think Glaive would be better options. So Cruel will be picked up here. A great pick because he can fight and stand his ground against a Baptiste here.
The sustainability this Cruel is going to have is going to be disgusting. With the double heal plus his own lifesteal anyway. This is... I don't know how you shut that kind of thing down.
Double heal, built-in lifesteal in the kit, and the burst heal of the Spectral Smite for Kroll. Like, it's going to be so difficult to take him down, even if you take the Sky. Yes, Sky performs well into the Kroll, but it's still going to be extremely difficult for her to actually find that kill, because Kroll can just pick one of the other targets. Once the Sky jumps away from him, like, he can get onto the Baptiste if he blocks the Ordained, and then has Gavizzle block the Fearsome Shade for him and just start healing off of the Baptiste as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, Sky is so
here.
good late game against this competition. She actually counters all 3 heroes. So if Sky gets to late game, gets 3 items, then Hammers can take the win. And they're good at turtling. So Cloud9 needs to secure the early game and snowball this game before Sky gets online.
Yeah, and that's a conversation we've had quite a lot of times as well, where teams have to make things happen in the early game. However, Cloud9 is definitely a team that can make that happen. This is a team that historically has been very aggressive in the early game and makes things happen. So we'll see if they can bring that to pass in this series. But also, the KESTREL and Baptiste, not exactly bad at kiting either. So this composition from Hammers, good at like falling back from the Cloud9 aggression.
Yeah, the question mark for me will be Archaic on the Sky, because that's not a pick we have seen him play, and it is a pick that is very high skill cap. You have to have your angles proper, and you have to choose your timing on the Suri strikes perfectly well. Otherwise, you will just get caught out in a bad position. Like we've seen so many times where top-tier players Suri strike just kind of questionably into the enemy team.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's time to get on into our grand final. Let us know who you're voting for using that hashtag Vainglory8. But the players are onto the map, so we're going to head on there as well. Our grand final begins. It's the rebirth of the Hollywood Hammers going up against the ever-present Cloud9.
Hey guys, welcome back. And Cloud9, here we go. They're in the finals once again. They're up against Hammers, though. Normally a bit of a different competition, normally. You could imagine normally it's C9 versus TSM, but Hey ho, Hammond is coming out with a vengeance. They want to take this game and prove to everybody they are the best in NA, or at least can compete with the best. I'm just scared right now, Scoundrel. I'm telling you why. Gabe Vizzle, he's got the grace again.
Yeah, and Old School's got his Adagio. If there is one player in North America that can make lane Adagio work, it is Old School. And actually, he's one of the only players that I have seen make it work in recent times. So I'm going to be interested to see how he combos. I think the Adagio Cruel combo is incredibly strong, especially CP Adagio, because you're going to empower those Cruel basic attacks even more against those Gift of Fire afflicted targets. So this is something that can snowball very heavily out of control here for C9 if they get Joseph rolling, if Old School can keep applying those stacks. I mean, if you can get a rush down onto the Sky and then apply Gift of Fire to the Cruel, not only will Sky be super immobile following that, even if she Suri strikes, you will also get a huge amount of burst damage onto her. So C9 has the potential to kind of run away with this game if they have the right ingredients and the right setups. And there is only really that disengage from Playboy Afro in terms of his Fearsome Shade. And that's probably going to get echoed, but C9 might be able to get a major advantage before Echo is picked up.
What's interesting about their composition as well, if you look at the Crucible as one of those items, Scoundrel, what are you going to want a Crucible on the team? You said the Fearsome Shade, which is a key target. Also, Archaic's Death from Above. That's really about it. I mean, it's very hard to spot an active camo stun coming, in all honesty, but it's going to be easy pickings, you can imagine, for Gabe Vizzle popping that Crucible, and then Cloud9 could potentially run them all over. I mean, they've got Joseph on this Cruel as well, another big pick that's been rising in popularity recently.
Sorry if you just heard me kick my desk, that really hurt. No, I think even Death from Above is sometimes questionable in terms of crucibling, because the stun is actually quite short. It only just the real issue that comes from it is the slow combined with the frostburn. But I think the most important thing on Gabe Vizzle's mind is going to be that Fearsome Shade. So I think you ultimately reserve your Crucible for Fearsome Shade almost every single time. But you're right, it's not like you're facing a multitude of abilities that you're going to have to Crucible. It is just going to be realistically the Fearsome Shade, and if necessary, the Death from Above if the Fearsome Shade is no longer an issue. So it maybe makes it a little bit easier for Gabe Vizzle here as well, you know, also with double reflex blocks likely going to be coming out from Old School and Joseph, although they aren't really a matter of urgency in this game, which is really interesting because often we see teams have to go for them as a matter of urgency against certain heroes like Koshka. It definitely will be a matter of urgency you feel for the likes of Hammers, because they'll want to be able to stop that Cruel ultimate at level 6, especially being a major issue. We have to wait to see. There's a bit of an engage going on here, but Hammers will just back off as Joseph takes a bit of an aggressive position.
Yeah, Ordained does come through. Playboy Afro, he's going to be able to keep Cloud9 at bay. Okay, we'll secure the healing camp here. Gabe Vizzle is going to retreat towards the lane as well. But Hammer's playing very aggressively. Forward barrage actually onto Gabe Vizzle. Chunks into about half HP. Old School has got the healing on his side. Really, he's not going to be in too much of a problem right now. And it's going to be all about Joseph here in that level 6 mark. He's level 5, only just dinged it, that is. So he will be trying to make early plays, or at least level 6 plays, very, very soon, you would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. The level 6 plays are going to be influential. Starting all over again, going for a crystal bit, you know, that kind of wards out the idea that it was a mistake in the previous game. And that does give him the ability to play a bit further at range and still maintain the ability to burst out with that glimmer shot. It's just so interesting that he considers it so early on. He must really value that crystal damage splash against the likes of an Adagio, or even just trying to get the sieges onto turrets. Just it's not something that a lot of other KESTREL players do, but it does give him a slightly extended early game range on that glimmer shot, and the damage still can find those executing blows.
Joseph staying up in the lane there, a little longer than you might have expected, but he did ding level 6, so very, very early level 6. Archaic has hit that mark as well at the moment, just taking those forward camps, but still, we are 5 minutes into the game right now. And Cloud9 already playing off that aggression and that threat that Joseph does apply. As soon as that From Hell's Heart has been skilled here. Cloud9, again, they're such a dominant team, not only in the lane, and you said Old School is one of the only players that can make this Adagio lane work extremely well, and he does it very, very, very good. Oh, that sentence was terrible, wasn't it? That sentence wasn't very good at all. But you see what I mean. Old School is such a proficient Adagio player that he is a double threat composition. Normally, you look at Adagio and go, oh, okay, so he is going to not only heal my team, but he's also going to do a fair bit of damage in the front line. Has to kind of stack up the damage realistically, and then we've got a hard-hitting tank. Not a tank, sorry, a hard-hitting carry in this jungle role as well. But the problem is, I'm looking at Cloud9's composition right now. They've got Grace for the massive engage potential as well, the Holy Novas, and the disengage as well is going to be huge if they do want to lay down the Versa Judgment. Old School is going to have a little bit of an easier time, you can imagine.
Gotta be honest, Jaws.
Yeah.
Barely followed what you said there.
Yeah, I got so confused halfway through. It's like 1 a.m. you gotta leave me alone.
It's not just you. It's 1 a.m. for me. So I kind of drifted off, and I was just watching the animation of. I was just watching the animation of the Cruel. I really like the walk animation on Joseph's Cruel. You know, the skins. I was just kind of mesmerized by him walking around the map.
Oh, he's got a little peg leg. It's hilarious.
But I'll maybe try and talk about what you said. I think obviously the issue that's going to be here for Hammers is that apart from the Ordained and the Fearsome Shade, if those two abilities aren't landed at the right time and don't get the influential disengage, C9 have got such good ways to stick to even a mobile target like this Sky. And you've got Benediction from Grace, you've got the slowdown from the heroic perk of Cruel, you've got the ability to dive onto them with his Dead Man's Rush, and also that Smite ability to slow them down too. Old School's Gift of Fire slows down. You know, you've got so many ways to limit the mobility of these carries. Oh,
Joseph going in for a small flank here, starting all over, has to retreat from Hell's Heart, has already been used here. Does he actually get blocked as well? Joseph taking a lot of damage from those turrets. Death from above does come down, separates the members of Cloud9, but Gabe Fizzle has hit that level 6 mark, so Divine Intervention will heal Joseph up for the meantime. The Hell's Heart being perfectly blocked by starting all over does mean a kill does not go through to either team.
Good disengage. Joseph maybe a little bit split in terms of decision on who to focus. He wanted to go for starting all over, but Playboy Afro was further out of position. So, you know, he could have maybe turned onto Playboy Afro a little bit sooner, and they might have got that executing smite damage, but there wasn't given enough time for Joseph to stack up those weakness stacks. One of the things that Cruel is incredibly reliant on is the attack speed. That's why a lot of Cruels sometimes go Blazing Salvo quite early on, because the attack speed is so crucial to build those necessary weakness stacks. But the Tension Bow is an item spike in itself. Double Reflex Block comes out for Old School and I Love Joseph, so they have the ability to get themselves out of Ordained specifically, but also if the Death from Above becomes an issue, they can also get around that.
And speaking of Reflex Block, starting all over and Playboy Afro have one too. We've seen a lot of teams fall for this kind of trap when coming up against the Cruel. Not prioritising that early can lead to their demise. Although Joseph was from Hell's Heart available again. Joseph and Archaic and Playboy Afro off to the side. Here comes the Hell's Heart. It's going to get blocked. Archaic takes that one, no worries. But look at Old School on the sidelines. Almost chunks out starting all over there. And now Playboy Afro is in the front line. Holy Nova will end up only landing onto one members of Hammers. Joseph's determined to go back in there. And he two rightfully so. He finds first blood with that smite. Starting all over, no energy. And Playboy Afro is just going to get soloed out here by Old School. And that will lead Cloud9 as well to get that gold miner.
And that is a perfect example of that Adagio Cruel combo. I mean, Adagio can make Cruel stick to his target even harder and empower those basic attacks, meaning that he hits even harder in the early game. So influential, as you can see, they were able to burst Archaic out. The Boomerang did force the Reflex Block out of Archaic also, and they're going to get their first turret of the game as well. Another thing about Cruel is he's very good at taking neutral objectives.
Extremely good for that smite ability. That turret does end up falling. First one for Cloud9 on the field. Joseph in a lot of trouble, although does have his reflex block, like exactly what you were talking about. Early prioritization on those. Archaic, is he going to burn? Oh, that was very close. Thought Old School was just going to burn him out there, but it wasn't quite the case. Ordained does come out to Old School, but Joseph is onto the sidelines. Does not have that ultimate actually used from Hell's Heart. It's going to be a big stun from Gabe Bizzle. Fountain's going to get popped as well. Arcade just repositioning himself perfectly there. Just going to run down Joseph. My goodness, that was good. But double kill for Old School with the Gift of Fire. Just melts two people for the price of one. Starting 11 falling as well.
Man, Old School's Adagio. The only person I've ever seen make this work effectively, post-Adagio range nerfs especially. He still manages to flex this Adagio into lane and work it for C9. And they are getting a small advantage in the start of this grand finals of this weekend at the VG8. Joseph now hits the Poison Shiv, a very crucial item because lifesteal, again, very important to Cruel. The more weakness stacks you build on a target, the more lifesteal you get against that target. And if you add a Poison Shiv into the mechanics, I don't know exactly what the mechanics are beyond 100% lifesteal. I don't know whether it's that you heal more than the damage you're dealing. I haven't ever looked into those mechanics specifically, but if you get 8 weakness stacks as a Cruel, you get 100% lifesteal against that target. So you add the Poison Shiv to that, you're either going to get to 100% quicker, or you do get that extended lifesteal, which I've never really actually looked into specifically. But regardless, Poison Shiv a great item for Cruel in general because the sustain is so important to him.
You could see it work in those fights previously. He absolutely was out of that fight until he goes, oh wait, sustain, runs back in. Oh, thanks for the heal, old school, and I'm just going to heal myself back up to full. Disgusting, absolutely ridiculous sometimes, especially when it's twinned with Gabe Vizzles as well. That will be Crystal Sentry going down. Only the first one of the game for Hammers, so not something to worry about just yet. But that does, again, get the ball rolling for Cloud9. And let's quickly jump over to Hammers' side. Let's have a look at their composition real quick, Scoundrel. Archaic, and what's said on the desk is... Guy's one of those heroes that is so hard to pilot that it can be extremely tough to perform in a competitive standpoint because you're coming up against a team that is not only seasoned, but, you know, you're coming up against Old School and Joseph, who are just so incredible at chasing you down at this point. Archaic's done a good job thus far of kiting around, but these 4 barrages, they will have to be on point.
Yeah, I mean, Skye is one of those heroes that... One second, I'm going to sneeze. Okay, no
worries. Okay.
she's one of those heroes that she has bad matchups, but if you pilot a Skye well, you can actually outplay a large majority of your bad matchups on paper. She's one of the most pilot-dependent heroes in the game, in the sense that a good Skye can pretty much outplay any other hero in the game. Maybe apart from Taka, that can be difficult for a Skye, but sometimes if you don't play her as well, your good matchups can be bad too.
Good matchups can be bad. There comes the death from above. Gabe Vizzle does get locked up in it, but look at the damage. Look at the blocks. That was huge, starting all over. He's going to have to use those boots to get away. Active camo stun has been set up, but Gabe Vizzle is on the sidelines. Archaic hiding back with the 4 barrage. Not so forward. Playboy Afro does end up going down eventually, though. Old School. Oh, Joseph wants to go for the dive. He makes it work as well. That heal from the Grace. All too much. There's another one to boot as well. Cloud9, they take out Archaic. They're looking to take this turret as well.
We're going to take the turret, and as starting all over defends, we draw attention to his build path, which is something that I find very interesting, simply because... Wait a second.
On a second here. Starting all over, stepping a little bit too far forward, you must say. Joseph, yep, he's out of there, so you're free to carry on your point.
He's gone for a Glimmer Shot build, which against a Cruel, where you naturally feel like he's going to want to be kiting, is interesting. I would have maybe expected a Breaking Point focused Kestrel build here, or even the Tornado Trigger second, like we have seen against some Cruels in the past. But the ability to kite is that much more important because you want to give any bit of space that you can get between you and Cruel while dealing damage is really important. He's gone for a Glimmer Shot focused build, which is going to keep him stationary for the most part. I guess the way that he's playing this is he's saying, well, they either go for me, and at which point Archaic carries, or they either go for Archaic, at which point I carry. Because they can't focus 2 targets at once, or so he thinks. You know, that's maybe the way that he's looking to play this out. One thing that I've been really impressed with C9 before this potential fight breaks out, their neutral objective control has been outstanding. You wouldn't expect anything less with the Cruel, as they take another gold mine. But I really love teams that play Cruel to his strengths, and one of Cruel's strengths is his neutral objective control.
Yeah, turret after turret, gold mine after gold miner. They do extend that gold lead. 6,000 in the lead at 14 minutes is only a little bit ludicrous, I must say. Now, Joseph, he's got that infusion in the inventory. He's got the metal jacket. He's got the poison shiv and tension bow. He's a hard-hitting Cruel right now. Hollywood Hammers, they can't really seem to do anything. I'm not going to lie. I find it hard to look at their composition and go, okay, so this is their win condition at this current moment in time. We're 15 minutes in, and Cloud9 have not only found fight after fight that they're winning, but there's just no relevancy to Archaic right now either.
No, and again, you as a Sky, you naturally want to build space and time so you can build space and time. That sounds funny. Wait, we got a fight breaking out.
Hang on, yeah, we'll go back to that point in a second. They're going to lock down Playboy Afro. That Holy Nova is going to get blocked. Fountain's going to heal them all up, though. Playboy Afro is sending out the Fearsome Shade. Sends Cloud9 running, but they still managed to pick up that kill regardless. And look, as soon as they pick up a kill, you said they got beautiful objective control, neutral objective control. Turn straight on the Kraken. They're just doing it anyway.
And it's going to be a pretty solid secure here unless Starting All Over can land a very impactful Glimmer shot. Looks like he's coming round, has got the potential, they've got the scout trap advantage, doesn't find the opportunity. Really late one shot, one kill. It reveals their position.
Yes, it does indeed. Starting All Over is just in a sticky situation. He does actually get the stun up on Gabe Vizzle there. That was actually really big, but Joseph dives straight onto Archaic. Here comes the reposition for Barrage, almost takes him out, very, very close to going down. Cloud9, they still have that Kraken, remember. Now, Playboy Afro, bad mojo, not today from Hellsart to stop him in his tracks, but they still have to deal with that Kraken.
Yeah, but that is a good win for Hammers because it does mean that Kraken will be essentially free for them to take down, and with this build from Starting All Over, it does give him the ability to burst things like Kraken very quickly, as you can see. They might get one turret out of this, they could be lucky to do so, but I mean, the small mishap there from C9 means they kind of waste this opportunity. I think Starting's going to get this before the turret even goes down. It will be very close, but could be the case.
Well, it might just be one more hit, actually, it'll do it. No, it actually breaks the base there, so Hammers losing a little bit more than they anticipated.
I don't think Starting had the energy to continuously cast Glimmer shots, which is the main form of his damage right now.
It's quite frustrating for him, you can imagine, because he is sitting on that double monocle and that Sora Blade. He's got a bit of Pierce as well. He wants to just get in the front line. Well, not in the front line. He wants to get in the back line and just sit there, just pounding Cloud9, but they're just not giving him room to breathe.
C9, again, can still look to put pressure on here. It's so easy for them to apply that pressure. Joseph getting targeted.
Ordained on Joseph. Holy Nova is going to get blocked there by the Crucible. Death from Above does lay down from Archaic. Here comes Joseph once again, though. He does get feared up, but it's not going to matter. Gabe Vizzle's got the heal. He's got everything he needs. Old School just running people down as well. Playboy Afro the target. He falls. There's another divine intervention to save Old School's life. Joseph in that brush getting that passive movement speed. Starting All Over, nowhere to run. Holy Nova's going to get blocked, but Archaic falls beside him, and that'll be him going down as well. Old School tried to find him off, tried to finish him off there for the ace, but it did end up going over to Gabe Vizzle, his first kill of the game. Cloud9, they got the minion wave as well. They got the ace, and I think this is going to be game number 1.
They should be able to finish here, Jaws. They will be able to split focus on the turrets, as they are doing so now. And it'll be another decisive Cloud9 victory. Incredibly well played off the back of Old School's Adagio. Again, proving that you can still pilot a CP Adagio in lane and make it work. Joseph's combination on the Cruel, continuous pressure, the neutral objective control, capitalizing on advantages. It was just so good from C9. Archaic unable to make this Sky work here. Hammers down in the final. C9 one win away from securing the VG8 week.
Yes, that they are. So clean. Such a clean game from Cloud9. We'll see if they can keep it up in game number 2. However, we'll jump onto the desk and they break that game down a little bit more.
Well, we said Cloud9 needed to control the early game, and that they absolutely did. Hammers unable to really get any points on the board in that one. We saw a couple of kills for Archaic on Sky, but that's really all they were able to muster.
Yeah, the Sky was arguably the best part of this competition going into the draft, or going into the game, sorry, and kind of ended up being the case in-game as well, but it just wasn't really anywhere near strong enough for Hammers to pick up this win, because I think maybe someone might have tipped off Cloud9 to the fact that they need to win each of these final 3 weeks in order to have a shot at that a realistic shot at the #1 seed, because they have just suddenly kicked it into a high gear.
Yeah, and they played amazingly well, and the synergy and the focus was so good. Like, they focused the front line so well. Like, in a lot of the fights, they focused Batiste down and killed him multiple times. So Afro as Batiste couldn't do anything. He couldn't. When KESTREL and Sky would kite, they would just go ahead and turn on him. And then when they needed to get on Sky, look at how they juggle the aggro too. Cloud9 just does so. And Old School on Adagio, we forgot to mention that when he picked it. this man on Adagio
I figured everyone was just tired of hearing me say
so well, yeah. And look at how they focus Batiste here. You know, Batiste is the front line. He's caught by Cruel, and then they focus Kestrel and Sky, and they can't do much. It's a 3v2 at this point. And this Cloud9 tends to make mistakes. Again, narrow corridor, 2 skill shot hero. Gabe diving in just gets blown up. And that was an unfortunate negative trade for Cloud9 because Kraken only took 1 turret and then they gave over 2 kills. I mean, 1 kill. But other than that, Cloud9 didn't play the rest of the game just extremely well here. And the double Divine Intervention in this fight was insane. They just wouldn't die.
Yeah, nobody would go down. And Archaic trying to... You know, Sky wants these extended team fights, but when you're up against a Grace that already has an Echo, you can't outdo the damage or the healing that she's able to pump out across the fights, and the damage reduction as well.
And again, Kroll normally has a very difficult time getting onto a Sky, but when the fight goes long enough, he's going to get enough hits in over the course of that fight. With how much sustain Cloud9 had, he was able to find the kills at the end, but it was just, again, the aggressiveness from Cloud9 that we've needed to see from them, the decisive play. There's still a few things that they can clean up that they probably will have to clean up if they want to make a serious run at that #1 seed going into the Unified Live Championship. But for now, they are definitely looking like a top team once again.
Yeah, for this week, they are sitting pretty right now. We need to start to look at this next draft and get on into the second game of this series. It felt to me like Cloud9 were coming into that one looking very strong. Was this a compositional thing? Is there something that we can see their opponents in Hammers actually deny in this next game, or is I feel like Cloud9 is just one of these teams that it's too difficult to directly draft into them? Yeah,
they just executed their comp so well. They didn't let Sky get online, and whenever Archaic made a mistake and got too close and out of position, Cruel and Adagio, Joseph and Adagio and Old School just jump on him and explode him because he had no defense. So if Cloud9 just knew their win conditions and, again, executed really well.
Is there something that Hammers can do to, like, get themselves, like, a comfort composition or anything like that that might give them a chance of just coming into, bringing the game into their turf and, like, playing their own win conditions to try and take this one?
I think that's going to be the key for them, is to try and get a really comfortable composition, one that they know is very strong and, you know, kind of doesn't have any super hard counters. You know, has things that might do well into it, but nothing that hard counters it. The Kestrel, I think, is going to be an important pick for them to be able to get, and you know, maybe get Archaic onto one of these more aggressive heroes, because when he's been able to be aggressive, I feel like that's when Archaic has played at his best.
All right, well, we'll have to see. I've got to say, there's also the CP Ringo for starting all over that we saw yesterday do absolute wonders against Gangstars. But we'll see whether that's actually going to be something that can come on into this series. But the draft is underway, so we'll have to see whether anything crazy is going to come out for this one. Hammer's going to be on the A side now, and Cloud9 over on the B side.
Yeah, they're going to stick to their draft strategy and ban Vox away from Old School. However, Old School can play a lot of heroes very proficiently. So let's see if Cloud9 going to ban the Catherine or the Baron here, because starting does play a pretty good Baron. So is Cloud9 going to switch it up a little bit and instead of banning Cath, ban Baron? If they do that, then Hammers will definitely first pick the Cath or first pick the Baron, depending on what Cloud9 decides here. And then Grace and Lyra will be open again.
Yeah, once again, we see the healers sneaking on through the draft, and a few times we've seen them even get past the second bans and not really be as much of a priority. It definitely seems to vary between different teams on which ones are the first picks in these series, but Hammers looking for that Grace to start things off.
Yeah, this is definitely gonna, or not, I shouldn't say definitely, but it should lead to a Lyra pick for Cloud9, as it is gonna come out. And now the bans, I would expect Baron, Idris, perhaps, maybe not even Idris on the second ban, but Baron is almost certainly going to be one of these bans.
Yeah, because I don't think Cloud9 plays Baron. I haven't seen Old School really on Baron, so if he's not going to play it, they're going to ban it. Or if they don't ban it, they'll probably pick it up and Hammers will have to ban it. They're going to ban away the Kestrel, so now Baron is completely open. So is Hammers going to ban it, or are they going to take the risk here and say, nah, Old School doesn't play it. We're going to not take that away. So let's see what Hammers is going to take away. They'll probably take away a key jungler that they don't want to deal with, like Cruel potentially. Maybe they don't want a last pick Cruel on a Cloud9 side, or even Koshka potentially. So let's see what they decide.
Yeah, I feel like it could be a strategy to let a Baron on through from Hammers, because, you know, Idris is available. They've got Grace as well. So an Idris Grace kind of composition could look incredibly strong for them. They're going to ban away the Cruel in the end.
Yeah. Now Idris or Baron is up, so I think Cloud9 will probably go for Idris since Old School does not play Baron or is not as comfortable or confident on it, I believe. So I think Idris will probably pick there, and they'll last pick a key jungler, potentially like a Taka or Koshka into the Baron here. Right. Hammers might do Baron Koshka, and then Cloud9 would have to then pick potentially Sky.
Baron would be so risky though with the Idris and Lyra already on the other side.
Yeah, but you have Grace though. Don't forget to echo on Grace.
But
he'll stay alive.
I think it's still really risky. The Idris is a very, very strong pick into Baron. But
they could Glaive. Actually, Hammers, and if they don't want to risk it, they can play Glaive here, because Glaive with Grace will be able to match against the Idris Lyra combo, and that will be a good and smart. And they'll do like Glaive Samuel potentially here. That could be a composition that they could run, because Archaic does play a better Samuel.
Or if we're talking full comfort picks, we could see a Ringo. But you never know when Starting All Over is going to pull that Ringo out at this point. But they are going to go ahead, lock in that Glaive.
Yeah. So now Baptiste or Samuel? What do you think?
I think the
Koshka. They're not going to give Joseph Koshka. So they're going to give Baptiste over to Cloud9, which is a pretty good comp into Glaive and Koshka. So is Joseph going to play this Baptiste or a CP Blackfeather?
We could even potentially see, because even though there's a lot of they're very fast, it is still triple melee. We could see another Rhyme.
That's true. Oh, you're right. Wow. Or if a Rhyme comes out, that's going to be a really tough order for Hammers. With Koshka, Grace can give Rhyme a hard time early game because she's so fast. She can just steal the farm before Rhyme can get his items online and be able to farm faster. So that would be a very good pick for sure, Rhyme into that. Or they can even do Weapon Grumpjaw on a CP Idris and just basically get CP to get Idris to a Shatterglass, and it would work really well because they're all melee. CP Idris, his Chakram would hit both of them. So Cloud9 have a lot of options right now, but I think Rhyme might be the pick because Joseph played it so well.
Yeah, we already saw him play it once today, and it absolutely dominated that game. We'll see if that's something that Cloud9 are willing to go for. Rona!
So it's a CP Idris Rona. Rona completely counters the melee here, completely.
Could also be a CP Rona. We have seen that in we have seen it in Vainglory8. We have seen it win in the Vainglory8.
CP Rona?
Yes.
Really? Oh, I don't remember. Okay.
It was in Europe.
Wow. Okay, that's EU though. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right, well,
I'm just kidding.
I mean, explain for any of the viewers at home that won't have seen a Rona, or especially a CP Rona, in competitive play. What is this going to fulfill within these team fights? How are they going to bring this Rona to light?
So whether it's weapon or crystal, it's all about the fact that it's triple melee. They're going to be clumped up. The red mist is just going to do so much work. The CP variant is the Into the Fray. Does a massive amount of burst when you go ahead and jump on in. If everyone's clumped up, it has a 200% ratio on the second burst of damage for the crystal power. It is a massive chunk of damage.
All right, so then what is the strategy to shut that down? How do you deny this Rona from just taking over the game?
She's so weak early. Koshka can just run over in jungle. She doesn't have any items. She doesn't have that much damage until she gets a Shatter Glass, and she farms really slow. So I doubt it's a CP Rona, but if they can make it work, they can make it work. Who knows?
We'll have to see if it will be the CP Rona. I've got to say, it's probably going to be the weapon power in my eyes, but we'll have to wait and see as we get on into this game.
Well, that's the difference.
I want a new bike for Christmas, but we'll see whether that's going to happen as well. It's time to get on into this game. Cloud9 up against Hammers. Let us know who you're voting for on Twitter using the hashtag Vainglory8. And it's time to jump on into our Grand Finals game number 2. Let's see if C9 can take this in a convincing 2-0 or whether the Hollywood Hammers can push it to game 3.
Thanks, guys. Now, I don't know about that new bike munch, but I got something that's better. And it might be a game 3 coming up after this if Hammers can take the game up for Cloud9. Is it going to be this CP Rona? I'm not sure. He's picked up the weapon blade.
Did you just say that a game 3 would be better than a new bike?
I don't know. It depends how good the bike is, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, if I got offered a road bike in exchange for a game 3 or no game 3 from this game, I'd probably take the road bike, you know.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll hold you to that one.
Looks like Hammers are going to get collapsed on really quickly here by C9. Great rotation by Old School.
This one taking a fair bit of damage though. Starting all over is packing a mean punch. Same with Playboy Afro. Base damage on Gwen. Not Gwen. Gwen? Yeah, it's not going to be it. Not Gwen.
Grace.
Grace is pretty high. The Benediction doing a lot of work and AoE as well. That'll be the healing camp going over to the likes of Cloud9, so they'll be happy with that one at least for now.
Absolutely, waiting to see if an early rotation from Old School comes up from the jungle, but they are going to catch him out. And now Playboy and Starting are going to look to push the lane as quickly as possible, but Gabe Fizzle and Old School get back into lane quite nicely and quickly. But Archaic has been given a free pass in this jungle early on, and it's either Joseph that's put a little bit behind because of that early aggressive invade from Hammers. And they don't really get punished for it either, as Archaic makes another move to the forward healing tree on.
Does indeed. Did step on a scout trap, by the way, so took a little bit of damage from that one. Playboy Afro is going to be here to back Archaic up, but so would Gabe Fizzle. Heal doing a fair bit of work, and Joseph actually just being burst out here. He might just go down to first blood. Tries to into the fray over the wall, but it doesn't happen. Playboy Afro picks up the first blood. Gabe Fizzle trying to get the last bit of poke damage. The sigil damage, not quite enough. Take out Playboy Afro. Too tanky on this Grace. Does end up recalling instead, so first blood over to Archaic.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is the aggressive, nice queuing of his basic attacks as well. What you could do, they're going to collapse on Koshka potentially.
Well, healing camp does go over to Joseph. That's actually a really nice reward for him. Old School's actually going to collapse on here as well. Again, a nice little rotation from him. Starting all over is going to go down, and that's going to go over to Joseph as well. Gets off the little recall, but hey-ho, you're never going to get back to base in that state. Cloud9 pick up themselves a return kill.
Oh, whoa, Joseph.
Oh,
Joseph.
Oh, into the fray. He's good. He's good.
One of the things that you can do on Koshka, when she uses her Twirly Death, she gets an empowered basic attack for 10 seconds. That 10 seconds is longer than the actual cooldown of Twirly Death. So what you can do, as C9 are getting battered about by Archaic on this Koshka as well, is you can Twirly Death, queue up 2 basic attacks, wait a little bit, land 2 basic attacks, Twirly Death again, and get another 2 basic attacks and the Twirly Death damage onto your target. So basically 4 basic attacks in a row that are empowered, which means you're a very, very strong early duelist.
Extremely strong. Well, that's what Koshka is known for, eh? Tell you what Joseph is known for, his Koshka and Taka, and I'm pretty sure he's going to show Archaic how to play it later on. Joseph, although fairly low, is undeterred, it seems, actually just wandering towards Archaic's jungle now, although he has got 2 members behind him. This is actually a really bad spot for him, it seems. Starting all over is rotating as well.
Yeah, Joseph might be caught out here. Looks like he's going to try and take the healing camp. There's a 2-level advantage for Archaic. I don't know if Archaic knows that he's there, but he sure as hell does now.
Well, level 3 on Joseph, level 4 on Archaic. Archaic is way more healthy, but into the fray over the wall will just lead Joseph to safety. Meanwhile, we did have Playboy Afro actually securing 2 of the backs off of Cloud9. So at least getting a little something for his troubles.
Looks like he's going to try and stop Playboy Afro, who does get the forward healing tree on, and Joseph has been starved of so much farm in this early game. 19 CS to 7 for Joseph. That is a pretty catastrophic disadvantage for a jungler, as he has kind of been pushed out of the jungle so heavily. Old School's been doing a good job here, but is only equal.
Well, a little engagement does happen. Starting all over is going fairly low, but Joseph is actually in the fray of it all. Archaic almost goes down to the empowered auto attack of Gabe Fizzle, but doesn't end up falling. Once again, Cloud9, they're finding these fights, but can't really seem to make anything stick at the moment. Starting almost going down, Archaic the same.
Well, let's be honest.
They get lane priority though.
Given the jungle disadvantage here for C9, the fact that they aren't losing these fights is probably good enough as it stands. Those chakrams, as I'm sure our resident one-trick IDRIS will tell you, on a CP IDRIS, hit like really hard. Like if you can get both hits of the boomerang on the chakram, they chunk squishy targets, especially Archaic in the early games. So you always have to respect the damage that a chakram can output. And speaking of interesting build paths, Archaic's gone mega heavy in terms of investing for his items later on. They've already built the 2 crystal bits that will eventually go into a broken myth, which means the slot efficiency for him right now is moderately low because he can only invest in 1 item that isn't part of this offensive item set, which does make him fairly squishy right now.
That it does. Speaking of squish, starting all over when he gets hit by those chakrams like you were saying. And will be at least a tier 3 finished item here for Archaic. He's level 6 as well, so as that Yummy Cannon Frenzy, that Aftershock will be packing a punch as well. Cloud9, they do get the recalls off, or at least Joseph does. He's going to be level 6 shortly as well, but like you said, as he's been so starved for farm, he's actually almost an entire level behind Archaic here. One thing, interaction actually I didn't think about really in this matchup is actually the mortal wounds that Joseph can apply will stop a lot of the healing coming out from Playboy Afro later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, there's already mortal wounds built into I Love Joseph's kit, so you don't necessarily need to have something like a Poison Shiv on board, although a lot of Ronas do actually end up building Poison Shiv regardless. Old School's going to scale up really nicely as well, and I feel like this is a game for C9 where, whoa, that was an interesting target to choose for your Yummy Catnip Frenzy. It doesn't quite work out, as the reflex block was already built for the eventual Crucible.
Oh, nice redirection on Old School there. Doesn't end up going down. That fountain was all too good. Joseph comes in with it into the fray. Hamazar just going to be able to get out of there quite sharpish, though, popping boots all around, it seemed. Now Cloud9 going very low, but Old School seemed to be more than okay in surviving that initial lot of burst. He has got his Shatter Glass online now as well, actually.
Used both his reflex block and his ultimate there. Ultimate obviously makes Idris both untargetable and invulnerable. And obviously, but oh, wait a second.
Starting all over? No, hang on a second. No, you're not allowed to talk to the ex-scoundrel. That's the rule, I think, in this game. It
has been the case, hasn't it? It has been the case.
They want to make a kill. They want to find something, but still can't let anything land.
They really do. They are so desperate to find an afterburn player. Starting all over 1 second.
They're going to go in again. Yeah, there we go. I was about to say, Gabe Fizzle this time gets jumped on. Who will go down first? In fact, it's starting all over. That goes down to a Chakram. Oh dear, Playboy Afro caught out of position as well. Gabe Fizzle takes the kill, and Cloud9 respond to that one perfectly.
And they've got incredible turret-taking potential here. With the Chakram, CP Idris so quick at doing this kind of thing. Archaic will get tagged here. But the fortified health from the Rona ultimate might be enough to allow C9 to get this for free. Yes, it will. Fountain comes out for safety. But a turret for a fountain, you would probably trade that any day of the week.
More than worth. Okay, going fairly low. Starting all over does come into the fight. Does enter and exit in the same frame window. Now Joseph is going to be fairly low, so he does end up having to back off here. But building up quite nicely here. He has been starved for farm, yes, but at least he's got a kill on his side. Uh-oh. He's good. Oh, okay. All right. No, he's more than okay. Actually just killed Archaic with a Chakram. All right, cool. Fair enough. Didn't expect that damage, did you? Archaic, so he ends up falling there, and Cloud9 once again find another kill.
It's interesting. There are two build paths for CP Idris that can achieve the divergent paths as quickly as possible. Shatterglass does it straight away, but there is a Frostburn build, which I think maybe could have been potentially better in this scenario. Now, I know that the Shatterglass is great for the burst damage, right? You get the burst damage onto Koshka, that's a fantastic thing. Koshka hasn't itemized any shielding, so it's going to work out fantastically. But against a triple melee composition, I would have felt maybe that Frostburn might have been a better call, just because how effective Frostburn is at kiting into a triple melee composition. And Frostburn, you can achieve the same thing. Whoa, Nelly.
Oh, damage is completely averted once again from Cloud9. However, okay, does have Yummy Catnip Frenzy. They are going to be able to take this turret. Those Chakram's really hard hitting now with that alternating current. Old School still chasing. Got to be careful though, starting all over. Maybe looking for something here. Playboy Afro is going to give him the heal. Old School goes low in the back line, but still surviving. Red Mist comes through from Joseph as well. Yummy Catnip Frenzy on top of him. Now he is going to get caught up, stunned up, and killed. Playboy Afro does end up knocking him up with the Holy Nova. Now, Hollywood Hammer's actually picking up 2 kills of their own. Oh, Game Visual, this might be a third. This might actually just be an ace. Archaic, jumping between 2 turret shots. He's going to go down eventually, but the ace does end up coming through.
And they might be able to get another turret off from it, because starting all over is working very quickly so that the infusion comes out, but this will be 2 turrets for Hollywood Hammers. And again, C9 a little bit over-aggressive. Joseph way too late to the party there. And C9 give up another mid-game team fight. Something they've been making some uncharacteristic errors, you know, compared to how we usually see C9 play. So, you know, they want to scale up now. They want to get to the late game. I definitely feel like Frostburn would have been a good shout for them. Old School's going to pick up another Blazing Salvo. No, he sells that. That was a mistake.
Whoops. Rip a little bit of gold. Gold value not on point there. Broken Myth now finished for Archaic, by the way. So that's going to be pretty big for him in these extended engagements. Speaking of extended engagements, this is what one might not be as extended. Okay, Fizzle does go fairly low, but Old School on the sidelines just completely free hitting, but Divine Intervention is going to heal him up. That's going to be a nice block on the Yummy Candy Frenzy for Old School, but Archaic still not done with him in the back line. Does end up trading 1-for-1, but Red Mist just decimates the rest of Hollywood Hammers. Archaic just wonders what happened to his team. Okay, Fizzle, she protects, but she also attack. She does end up finishing off the little kitty cat, and that will be Archaic falling and an ace going to Cloud9.
Solid meme into there, Jaws. I've got to say that was a nice transition. Yeah, that is one of the issues against Arona. If you spend your time dealing with a backline carry, Grace remains stationary, starting all over, stuck with the backline too, and you ignore Arona, she will kill you. If you ignore Arona and she just gets the red mist forever, she will literally just kill you straight up. And Old School spent so much time kiting there. He bought so much time for Joseph to build up on the backline. Double sustain build from Joseph, by the way. The Serpent's Mask and the Poison Shiv. It was essentially almost untouched. Joseph going to be very hard to take down here. That team fight was an illustration of why I felt the Frostburn build might have been better here, Jaws, just simply because you saw how much Joseph was kiting. That would have been 10 times easier with a Frostburn. It might have even allowed him to sort of save his life, and it would have been potentially even easier for C9 to win that fight. But nevertheless, C9 are winning, so you can't really complain.
Absolutely not. But the gold isn't even in their favor at this point, just because the turrets. However, wow, that's a big item for starting all over. Actually picking up that tension bow. So he has got Sorrowblade, tension bow, and the poison shiv on board now. Goldminer hasn't really had too much attention paid towards it. Now Cloud9, they are more playing on the defensive. You could say that, you know, Hollywood Hammers, they aren't winning these fights through and through, but Cloud9, they still have to play a little bit further back than they may have want to, just because the turret situation. In fact, starting all over, creeping in this brush. Archaic's going to be here as well. Joseph has no idea, neither does Gabe Bizzle. Sigil comes out on the tri-bush to try and get a little bit of vision down. Starting all over, just dash over the wall though. Bright Bulwark's going to be pretty big. Old School on the back line though is going to get dealt with by Archaic. Does get a little bit of distance. So Joseph over the wall, using that into the fray perfectly there. He's going to back of the rest of his team. Okay, does find one kill, and starting all over will find the next as well. And that will be Gabe Bizzle going back to base, just recalling. And that, what a perfect position there for Hollywood Hammers to be in.
Yeah, starting to engage the fight so well. I think Joseph was looking for an opportunity to dive over the wall with his ultimate to get back to his team, but the fact that he was separated meant that Gabe Bizzle had to pop the ultimate in a sort of an awkward scenario, meaning that Joseph was kind of just stuck on the other side of the line with Archaic having built up so many breaking point stacks. Joseph needs breaking point, by the way, to come online. Like, sorry, no, Old School needs breaking point to come online. I meant that Old School was separated, not Joseph. I don't know what I was talking about. But once you get breaking point on a CP IDRIS, a lot more it's sort of easier to stack that damage up more effectively. But until he gets that, he will be lacking compared to what Archaic is putting out right now. And they have gone for the Atlas Pauldrons, which may strike you as odd because it's not that good into Rona, but it is very good into CP IDRIS because he's an alternating current-based CP carry, which is an attack speed-based item. So it's always very good to lock down the attack speed of an alternating current-based carry, and that's why Atlas Pauldrons can still remain viable versus them.
Yeah, it's going to cut his DPS. Very, very much so in these fights. If he can land it, obviously. However, you wouldn't put it past him whatsoever, considering his positioning in these fights has been very aggressive. Now, Hollywood Hammers, they still have that at least a turret lead here. And they still have a Goldie at 2,000. It's just whether Archaic can actually make these plays into the back line again, because that fight seemed to only go well for them because Old School was completely segregated and Joseph did have to fight that 2v2. 1v1, Archaic is going to win out of Old School, you can imagine, time and time again. Old School actually getting jumped on once more, but that Red Mist just chewing them up. Playboy Afro comes up big with the heal. Here comes the only Catnip Frenzy straight onto Old School. Is actually taking him down. Red Mist, and that regeneration is not going to be enough from the Serpent's Mask and the Poison Shiv. Passageway for Gabe Bizzle to get him back to base. Archaic almost falls to the base damage, but Hollywood Hammers coming up really big now.
Yep, so the double, you can see there, Playboy Afro is just going to escape. The double heal coming out from the Grace is so good at keeping these frontline carries alive that want to dive in onto the likes of Old School on this IDRIS. And that's why Grace has been so popular as well in dive compositions, because you're just able to reduce so much damage and they can act so easily as a frontline despite not having a huge amount of defensive stats to their name. Starting all over's Poison Shiv kind of really shuts down the Serpent's Mass Poison Shiv build from Joseph. I might have, to be honest, I would have really preferred to see some different builds come out here from C9. I would have liked to have seen the Frostburn-based Idris build. I would have liked to have seen a Poison Shiv or Serpent's Mask into Breaking Point build from Joseph. Again, there isn't any way right now for C9 to get more powerful as the fights go on. So there isn't that break of myth, which has now just been finished for Old School. It might be influential, but one of the Rona's greatest strengths is that her red mist stacks breaking points so quickly. So not having breaking point kind of limits her, and being a sustained base build against a Poison Shiv kind of shuts it down almost 50% of the value of that build path. So yeah, I just, maybe some different builds here for C9, in my opinion, would have been better.
Well, that will be the Kraken being started up by Hollywood Hammers now. This is the issue for Cloud9. They are just recalling here. This is actually going to be a free Kraken. I don't think that this is going on at all. They're not going to get there either. They haven't got any ranged abilities that far stretched. No one-shot, one kill for them, and that will be the Kraken completely going for free over to Hammers and Cloud9. You know, not getting the vision down, just kind of punishing that.
They know, though. They knew that it was going down. They just don't feel comfortable to be able to face check. The problem is because they have been on the back foot this entire game, they have been unable to extend their vision past their own Crystal Sentry side of the jungle. So the problem for C9 is that they can't face check, because if they face check this composition, they just die. So they have to be defensive. They have to let this Kraken go for free, because if they went and face checked it, they'd probably lose not only the Kraken, but they probably lose the game there. So it was a calculated defensive call, knowing that it was very difficult for them to actually go in and face check that Kraken.
Okay, Vizzle with the late Dragon Blood contract is going to pop down the Sigil to heal everybody up of Cloud9, but it isn't going to stop the fight. Playboy Afro gets one Holy Nova, and that'll be Old School getting jumped on now, but Yummy Cannon Frenzy is going to get completely bogged. Old School made it back to base, but just got torn apart regardless. And now Joseph with that red mist trying to keep in this fight. There's just too many heals coming out of Playboy Afro at this current time. That Kraken is still melting their turrets. He's doing absolutely nothing. This Rona pick, although working out in the early game, is not thus far for them. With 17 minutes in, that Kraken might just take this game to a game number 3 here. Excalibur, I think this is all over. Playboy Afro Arcade, they are going to be able to chew through these turrets, and there's no way the damage is going to be able to stop this Kraken. It's going to go down. Cloud9 are taken to a game number 3.
I mean, that was a snowball that Hammers managed to exploit by pure map control as well. The fact that C9 could not face check them, they couldn't extend out of their own side jungle, and every single fight was so calculated and decisive from Hollywood Hammers. They built really well. The Echo early on the Grace with the Shatterglass build meant that their front lane was able to sustain so easily. And some of the builds from C9 I felt were a little bit questionable. We'll see what our analysts have to say, Joz.
Yes, we will. Rona not working out so hotly. We'll see what they want to do in the next draft phase as well. We'll jump over to the desk, though, and they can break that game down.
18-minute game, and Hammers managed to even things up in this series. It's one apiece now, and after a game that kills were even on either side of the board, but Hammers were just able to take so much more off of each and every kill that they managed to get.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was a key fight in the 8-10 minute mark or 9-minute mark where Cloud9 did a 2v3 and then ended up losing and then giving a turret, and that's when Hammers got a 1k gold lead. This was the critical fight here. I don't know why they're trying to engage on a 2v3 here. Rona comes in too late. Old School gets blown up, and they've been focusing Old School every time, so Cloud9 need to be very cautious, and Hammers did a really good job of posting him down. And once Grace got Echo, they just couldn't do anything. I mean, Grace with Echo and that Crystal build, Koshka or Glaive just wouldn't die fast enough.
Yeah, with the CP Idris, it was very much Hammers concentrating almost all of their effort onto making sure that Idris did not stay alive for any extended duration. And that's kind of what you have to do. When there's a Rona on the opposing team, you know she's going to be able to stay alive for a long time against this triple melee. But if you take out the rest of the damage, then you can whittle that Rona down and win the fights out in the end. So Hammers, knowing, again, playing to their win conditions, knowing that they have to take out the Idris, focusing in pretty much every single fight that they could, and that led to their getting these teamfight victories despite the fact that Cloud9 was winning early on.
Yeah, they were managing to get teamfight wins at least, but gold-wise, I don't think Cloud9 were ever significantly ahead at any point, and they weren't really able to turn a snowball on the go, but the Rona just didn't seem to pick up that much across the course of the game.
Yeah, he needed, once Grace had Echo, he needed Breaking Point, because in order to counter the Echo, which extends the fight so long, you need a breaking point and you need broken myth, and they didn't have the broken myth and breaking point in time to counter the echo and how it extends a lot of the fights and keeps the carries alive. So Cloud9 needed to not mess up in that early game fight, and that really cost them when they started falling behind. And then when Grace gets ahead, there's no really coming back with echo and all that crystal power she built.
Yeah, they were kind of got to a point where there was no winning these fights. They were just too far behind, and with the Kraken pushing at the same time as fighting, odds are you're going to be in a pretty good position at the end of it. And that was going to be Hammers taking that game in the end, managing to finish that one out. And Archaic doing a great job on Koshka as well. We said that they needed to apply early pressure, and they absolutely did. Now, moving towards the third game in this series, Hammers have taken Cloud9 to a 3-game final. Cloud9 with a kind of an off-the-wall Rona pick, let's be fair. You'd expect them to kind of go to something a little bit more comfortable, a little bit safer in this draft.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe Rhyme would have worked better because he would get the broken myth, fortified health, and he would be able to root them in place so that they couldn't chase Old School, because Rhyme's root actually is a very good form of crowd control to keep Old School alive. But as soon as Hammers kept diving Old School, he couldn't really do much.
Yeah, it was... I don't know, I just think the Rona pick was... They had an idea, they had a very clear idea of what they wanted to do, but just you have to get far enough ahead early on with it to be able to get into the double sustain and the breaking point. The breaking point is absolutely crucial to a Rona, and with it not really coming out at all, it really hurt them. But now going into this game 3, see the first couple of bans going to be those healers, and then a Vox pickup. I just want to take a moment to talk about how important this final game is, as the Catherine does come through.
Yeah, this is going to be an absolutely crucial game for both of these teams. Cloud9, if they want any chance at fighting for seeding, they need this.
Yeah, they need to get this to get themselves just 8 points behind Team Solo Mid. But Hammers, if they win this one, they will be pushing themselves into a tie for potentially that 4th and 5th spot, depending on how the 3rd place match goes.
All right, let's catch up a bit with this draft because we're getting carried away here. Catherine has been locked in, but Batiste was banned, so no combo. But then we do see Hammers grabbing that comfort pick of the Kestrel.
Yeah, and now Cloud9 can do Fortress Koshka here, honestly, because there's no Grace, there's no, there's no like healer that can like basically help them kite really well. Cat has only 1 stun. She will have Echo Silence and etc. though, but I feel like Fortress Koshka would work really well in this composition, and I think Gabe should definitely get Echo here, because if he echoes the wolves after they die and it has another pack of wolves, that's going to basically absorb all of the arrows from Kestrel coming out.
Not only that, but it gives him a 2nd round of fortified health to stay alive that much longer in the fights as well. So yeah, it's going to be the Vox Fortress Koshka, the early game aggression build that Cloud9 loves to run. It's just going to be now, can Hammers figure out something to deal with this in the early game?
That's going to be the big question. So far, the story of this series has been who can control the early game and snowball that to a victory. Neither team able to come back from an early deficit. And Hammers, with that Kestrel going up into a Koshka, you'd expect that they're currently on the defensive, but also Catherine, this is the first time it's come through the draft, so maybe that can affect things.
Yeah, they'll probably pick Samuel here, because the Oblivion along with the Silencers, you have to get 2 Crucibles to block that. So Samuel would make the most sense. That's Archaic's comfort pick. He likes playing Samuel. And if Samuel gets to the late game, he's really good into Koshka. They just need to survive the early game here. And I think as long as Cloud9 does not dive into corridors and get baited into those narrow corridors where they lose a lot of fights, they will do fine and win this game. So it's really on that early game, that good decision making there.
Not only that, but typically when the Fortress is jumping onto you with the Wolves, Koshka's going to be right up there with those Wolves, and the Empowered Malice and Verdicts can clean out damage onto Cloud9 while also clearing out the Wolves. So a late game, this is going to be a very strong composition for the side of Hammers. So it's really going to be just about this early game once again.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of Game 1. Cloud9 running, I think, exactly the same composition. Different tacks coming out from Hammers, though, in this one. So we'll see whether they're going to be able to weather out the early game and survive on towards the later stages of the game. But it's time to get on into the final game of our Grand Finals for North America here in the 5th week of the Vainglory8. And make sure to let us know who you are going to be cheering for. Who do you want to win this week of the Vainglory8? Let us know on Twitter with the hashtag Vainglory8. But now let's jump on into this game and see who is going to be crowned the Kings of America for Split 2 Week 1.
Thank you very much. Here we go, the penultimate game. Cloud9 versus Hollywood Hammers. This time Joseph is on his Telltale Koshka, but we have starting back on this Kestrel.
Yes, starting all over back on this Kestrel. Has got the crystal bit start again, which is very interesting. Something that he's been doing quite frequently throughout his games. I suppose to give him the extra added burst damage, like we said on the end of the Glimmer Shot. Won't talk about it too much. Gabe Vizzle on the Fortress. Not something that he's had a huge amount of success with as of yet. But it's something that Gabe Vizzle has managed to make work in the past. He's body blocking like crazy. Was that a mistake here from Gabe Vizzle?
Might have just been. Playboy Afro's going to chase him down. Another merciless pursuit will finish him off. But Joseph's taking a whole big chunk out, starting all over. There come the Glimmer Shots to kill, traded backwards and forwards. But Joseph actually picks up first blood in that engagement. Playboy Afro, can he find the kill on Joseph? I don't think so. That Twirly Death giving him the movement speed. 1-for-1 trade right now, starting all over, picking up that kill too.
But he does get the first blood, which is probably the most important part of that trade. And so much farm denied from starting all over in lane here. He did get it pushed to turret. He did lose out on those minions. So actually a pretty good start for C9, Jaws.
Yeah, overall net gain, definitely. And now Archaic is just farming up on this Samuel down here. Just left completely alone. But with Joseph picking up that first blood, like you said, Crystal Bit, he's got a little bit of shielding in his kit now as well. He's going to be able to sustain a little bit more in these early skirmishes against Archaic, who's just gone back himself and picked up a triple Crystal Bit. Always willing to outdo Joseph, it seems.
Joseph now on this Koshka, like we said, something that has allowed him to be aggressive in the early game. They can put pressure on. The mortal wounds from the Fortress is going to be good against the likes of Archaic on this Samuel. They're going to catch him out here as well.
Yeah, Joseph and Gabe Vizzle have smelled out this Samuel, but he is going to be more than safe. In fact, Hollywood Hammers maybe going for a small engage here. Oh, that tree and almost rooted them all up. Here comes Old School. He's going to join the fray. Gabe Vizzle already very low, has to back off. No one can really quite find the finishing blows on him from Hammers, so they're just going to be able to just chase them here. Merciless Pursuit is available, but again, Joseph is very, very slippery on this Koshka. Same with Gabe Vizzle on this Fortress. They want to go for it, though.
They're trying to burst down these backs. Do get stolen away there. One Malice and Verdict will do the job. Now they're going to put pressure on this. Actually, Joseph does get that. That is a big deal here. We'll give him the potential to trade.
Gabe Vizzle's going fairly low, though. It gives them potential to trade, but he hasn't got a backup from Fortress. So ends up not having to go in, not going in fairly hard. And now Old School actually going to get pushed into that turret, meaning that once more, Hollywood Hammers actually coming up really big against Cloud9, stealing away so many camps.
Old School's just been steadily farming in lane, though, so it's going to give him a small advantage over starting all over. But C9 do have to be careful. Again, they lose this early game jungle hard to the Samuel. He can start to get a lot of pressure out. So 7 CS disadvantage. So every CS advantage that Old School has made up in the lane, Archaic has had that advantage in the jungle. They are going to put pressure onto Playboy here, but he will just pop the Storm Guard and get away.
Yeah, that damage reduction and damage reflection helped him out a fair bit there. And now Cloud9, not on the back foot by any means, but Joseph wants to be off to a flying start here on this Koshka. His ability to engage in these team fights is only going to be heightened with Gabe Vizzle on this Fortress. Like they mentioned on the desk, this is actually a complete same draft we saw Cloud9 play earlier today.
They won't. I mean, they're hopefully going to get more success of it. I understand the idea behind it. The Wolves are going to body block the Glimmer Shots. The Wolves will body block the Malice and Verdicts, giving them some crucial time to be able to dive in onto their targets. I do worry about how a silence will affect them in the team fights, but you do imagine that Gabe Vizzle will be up to the task of blocking that fairly readily and easily. Old School will be able to stack up nicely as well once he gets that breaking point. Again, C9, I think, need to start the snowball in the mid game and keep that rolling.
Oh, and it's all about that snowball potential. Have Cloud9 got it in them to not topple Hammers, but take Hammers out of the tournament and take Cloud9? Are they just going to be able to push forward to the victory here? It's very rare we see a team come up against Cloud9 and give them a good run for their money, but Hammers really showing what they're made of this week. I want to see if that's going to be able to continue as well. Their strong performance, if they can just make sure they can do the same against TSM and Cloud9 time and time again, they will be very much undisputed. Whoa, gold Okay, Visual actually almost went down there to another glimmer shot of starting all over. This pressure on this turret is already surmounting for Hammers. And now Cloud9 trying to make a little play here. Old School fairly far up. Fountains popped actually from both sides. They're going to jump straight on starting all over. Twirly Death will actually finish off the kill there. Joseph almost falling. Same with Playboy Afro, who actually has to use the boots to get away. That Pouncy Fun didn't quite finish his mark.
I mean, I really love what Old School does in these situations. He finds a weak point, he jumps on and exploits it, and then allows I Love Joseph to get the finishing blow down. Never afraid to be aggressive in terms of positioning and plays on this Vox. And this is what I think they need this game. Need to continue to mount that pressure, need to continue to look for engages that are going to allow them to snowball onto global objectives. They want to get a kill, go for goldmine. Get a kill, try and take turret. It needs to be a sequence of events like that. Joseph now level 6, reflex blocks not finished. This could be an opportunity for C9 to find a fight.
Yes, it can. Joseph hasn't finished an Aftershock or anything along those lines, but I can't imagine he's all too worried, especially as he will now see that starting all over and Playboy Afro do not have those, or Archaic for that matter, for those reflex blocks like you just mentioned. He probably just wants to make a play regardless. In fact, I bet he picks up an Aftershock here. He does indeed. Jump on them right now. Just do it. Just run at them. That's all you need to do. Just go for it right at this very second. Reflex blocks finished all around, apart from Archaics. There we go. That small window scoundrel is going completely shut.
Old School and C9, they do have the reflex blocks come out, like you said. Samuel, the only one without ones. He could be a pretty solid target for Joseph if he can get in range, but the accelerator pedal has definitely come off here. C9 have a small gold advantage of about 200, which is next to nothing. It's pittance at this point in time. Item spikes have been hit as well. Joseph has got his item spike. He seems to be waiting patiently for his backs to respawn. It seems to be what his prime directive is right now. Just go and get the backs when they come back up.
No invades here from him and Gabe Visual. Not after the early shenanigans that did happen. Got to wonder to yourself, maybe Cloud9 a little bit scared now of entering the jungle. I mean, Playboy Afro is there with the stuns. Yeah, I mean, Archaic's got Oblivion, which is, you know, a pretty fantastic tool at making sure he can lock down someone like a Koshka. But Cloud9, like you said, really taking the pedal off the metal. Scaredy cat. The best joke I could come up with right now. Hammers, though, undeterred, it seems.
Yeah, and they're going to put pressure. I really want to see C9 start to move on to things like Goldmine, bring the Hollywood Hammers roster to them so they can find and force these engages. Right now, it just seems like they're kind of reluctant to make things happen in lane. All reflex blocks have been finished. That small window of opportunity that C9 had has been kind of been flushed down the toilet at this point. You don't expect that it's going to be easy for a Koshka to land a Yummy Catnip Frenzy now that everybody has got a reflex block on board, and a Crucible almost finished by Play by Afro.
And they're still going to try and make the engage happen nonetheless. I Love Joseph jumps in, pops his own reflex block to stop the stun coming out from the Catherine. There's a lot of Glimmer Shot damage and a lot of one-shot, one-kill damage, actually. Cloud9 are actually playing on the back foot now. They just get chunked out so hard by Hammer's composition. So much poke, so much peel as well. That turret will take about half its HP gone already. They're going to jump straight back in. Gabe Visual in a lot of trouble. Fountain was popped, same with Crucible. That'll be him backing off rather sharpish there. Now Hammers once more in the driving seat. Are they going to be able to do anything? Attack of the Pack is going to come through. They're going to straight onto Playboy Afro. He's the main target for them. The Mechanic Frenzy is going to get blocked. Wait for it comes out as well. Old School is going to send that one flying. Starting all over still in that backline. Just gets jumped on underneath the turret. He actually takes out one with him. Does end up trading. Old School picks up one on to Starting all over. They do trade Joseph's life for it, however. Again, Cloud9 always looking for those advantages. Take away some of the fronts.
And they all just rotate down again towards Jungle Shop. Tension both finished, like we said. Old School now working towards a breaking point, you imagine, after he's going to have to complete Aegis first, but once Aegis is completed, he can open up the space for that breaking point. And Joseph working towards what's going to be his broken myth now. Again, C9 still haven't taken that first turret of the game, so yet to crack open this game and build some map pressure. But starting all over, he's scaling up nicely, working towards his Tyrant's Monocle. You've got 10 stacks on Playboy Afro now already. Goldmine's going to be the target that's getting focused. Really good play by C9 to put pressure onto that Goldmine and essentially try and force Hammers to respond to it. Good zoning by starting, though.
Well, you say force them onto it. There's the nice silence there. Yummy Cannon Frenzy does get completed tonight. Joseph ends up falling. Fountain wasn't enough. That Oblivion does come out. It does going to get blocked by Old School's reflex block, but it's still going to matter. Archaic's going to finish him off with the Malison Verdict. That's going to be a nice start to Gabe Vizzle as well. Can't really prance and dance away anymore.
Oh, they get an ace.
Those Manafix do come through. An ace comes big for Hammers here. They are going to be able to find not one turret, but two here now.
Oh, there is like a double-edged sword to this Koshka, especially. Well, not even double-edged sword. It's like a single-edged sword, but it becomes a serrated blade. Simply because when you Yummy Catnip Frenzy and it gets reflex blocked onto a weapon power Kestrel, she can slip into active counter instantaneously, then stun up instantaneously as well. That's exactly what happened to Joseph in that last fight. This is why reflex block can shut down Koshka so easily, especially against the likes of the weapon power Kestrel. And that stun onto Joseph spelled his doom, and then C9 had to disengage almost immediately.
And Cloud9. Maybe the fatigue is setting in. That's the big question, maybe. They've been playing a lot today. Maybe they're just not on their full force right now. But we did see this composition come online a little later in the game, and that's probably where it's going to come online yet again, you could imagine. But the poking potential from Hammers is all going to be there. They've got that backup strategy of just sieging as well against Cloud9. It's all looking good for them at the moment, with a 2,000 gold lead now opening up for Hammers.
Goldminer stacking up, C9 trying to push on to this first turret, but Hammers have that major advantage now, it feels. Playboy Afro. He's got his Crucible, got his War Treads, the escape tools, the kiting tools, all there and necessary. You imagine that Echo might be thought of. Well, I don't know what that was about. That was just starting the gold miner for Hammers. It was a one-shot, one kill into nothing. There's a stun come through. Joseph goes in.
Yeah, wait for it. He's going to silence three members, and that's exactly what they were looking for. Archaic Falls, starting all over Falls. There we go. The kills come through finally for Cloud9. Joseph did end up dying in the fray, however. Ace for C9. There we go. Mid-game hit. Exactly 12 on the dot there, Scoundrel. And Cloud9 made it work.
I'm not really sure how that happened, but it did. I think that was a little bit over-aggressive in terms of positioning for Hammers. Didn't quite respect the damage output that Joseph has on the spike of his Broken Myth. And the fact that Old School's Tension Bow hit onto a target, he can land it, means there's a lot of burst damage here for C9. They also managed to get the Wolves into a really nice position where they were in the sort of the corridor, and they were tanking up those skill shots so nicely. C9 found a prime opportunity to engage, made it happen. They need to work from this, though. They need to keep going with that momentum that they have gained from that situation, because it's really important they don't let off, because the more time they give to Hammers here, the harder you feel it will be for C9 to find those kinds of fights. Infusions up now for Hammers. Level 10 for starting, level 11 for Archaic. Only a level 9 infusion that's about to run out for Old School. You'll wonder whether Joseph and Old School will now infuse themselves. After seeing the infusions of Hammers, they do not. This could be a big fight for Hammers.
Could be. Old School takes a lot of damage in the initial engagement. That's a Yummy Catnip Frenzy used on the back line. The attack of the pack is going to get popped as well. Old School's still alive somehow. Poison Ship healing him up nice and proper. Playboy is going to get taken out as well. Old School jumps on him. Sonic zoom forward. And that'll be him biting the dust. Now Cloud9. The composition comes online just like a book. They start off slow. In the mid-game, they really start to just hammer home that Hammers. They need to watch their toes.
I mean, that, by all accounts and purposes, that should not have happened. That was a double infused Samuel and Kestrel, triple item Kestrel and Samuel with his Broken Myth sort of, point, his breaking point on that item build, and they lost the fight. I think it's because starting all over took a too offensive line there, and he was basically took a huge amount of damage from Old School and Joseph without trying to slip away, and he was kind of committed to landing those glimmer shots without moving, and that resulted in him taking way too much damage at the start of the fight. And once starting all over goes down, it's quite easy then for C9 to then run at Samuel without fear of a huge amount of damage, because realistically starting all over provides a large amount of the burst damage here for Hammers. So once he's dead, the job becomes almost 10 times easier for C9 to win from there on in.
Want to fight in corridors, it seems. That's where they're winning these fights, at least. We would say Hammers is actually very good at that too, with all the AoE they do have from the Glimmer Shots and the Malison Verdict, Drifting Darks, etc. Cloud9, they have infused themselves now. Level 12 infusions on both Old School and Joseph. And they are just pushing towards, pushing down this lane. Joseph actually hasn't completed any sign of boots. He's only got tier 1 boots at the moment. Has picked up the Broken Myth to his name as well. Those long extended team fights are doing a fair bit of damage. Hammers, they need to be able to find their way back into this lane as well. Starting all over, trying to find a little something here. Nice stun from Playboy Afro, but I think that's going to be it for the moment.
Looks like Hammers is rallying round here. The silence is good. The silence is big, but Joseph takes damage.
Oh, he takes damage. He takes one too many turret hits, but Playboy Afro just falls in the meantime, though. That silence was absolutely huge in Cloud9. They find one kill, and once again, they just turn onto this Kraken. Look how quickly it's getting captured as well.
And it's so quickly. It's the triple item spike for Old School now, and obviously Koshka will do some serious work here. They have to be careful, though. The one-shot, one-kill doesn't actually secure it. Neither does the Oblivion. And here goes C9.
Oh, okay, yep, okay, he's going to fall. Dash forward from Old School. Sonic zoom, Sonic win, and he finds that kill in the end. Here comes the Kraken as well, lumbering up that lane. Cloud9, they just might end the game. In the next couple of minutes, you can imagine, these fights have gone all in their favor. The last 2 or 3, at least 100% in their favor, and finding one kill is more than enough for them to just reap the rewards of the map.
Going to start to move forwards here. They are going to get at least 1, maybe even 2 turrets off this push. But Samuel is down, Archaic is down. Old School very aggressive, does get stunned up, but won't be punished for it a huge amount. The glimmer shots were not up for starting all over, but it takes a lot of damage right there. Forces the fountain now. Wow, C9 forced to back off.
Yeah, I was about to say, you say that, and Old School just steps forward again. I don't know what it is about Vox players today, Scoundrel, but every single one wants to play straight up in the enemy front line, no matter who they are playing against. Kraken won't be able to take down that turret, but does a fair bit of damage towards it, though. So that's going to be 1.5 turrets down now for Cloud9. That seems to be the average at the moment. That will be an interesting stat, actually. The amount of Krakens and how many turrets they do end up taking. I reckon 1.5 will be the kind of mean, or the average.
Hammers now working towards Tension Bow for starting all over. There's the Null Wave Gauntlet for Playboy Afro. Very easy to land a Null Wave Gauntlet when the enemy runs at you. You don't have to sort of move into position to land it. It's something that you can do yourself pretty easily. And that'll go straight onto Gabe Vizzle, which will be very influential at stopping the Oblivion or also the Blast Tremor. A couple of really big abilities that you want to be able to Crucible as well. Both Oblivion and the Blast Tremor do warrant that kind of play. Here we go.
Attack of the pack. Here comes the silence. Blast Tremor actually silencing 3 members of Cloud9. Joseph still fighting back. This is the fight. This is where it ends, you could say. Joseph getting caught up in that Malice and Verdict. That Drifting Dark actually finishing him off with a basic attack from Playboy Afro. They trade 1 for 1 there. Ultra was way too low to carry on that fight. Starting all over did exit the fight early as well, so neither team again really getting anything off this apart from Hollywood Hammers just gaining priority over this lane.
Very, very, very close between these two teams right now. And almost like this is a performance of the split or even the last couple of splits here for Hammers, making it this far and being so close to toppling C9. They seem to be right at the very edge of being able to do so. I think Echo and Playboy Afro would make a huge difference to be able to combo that Blast Tremor, and it would make it very difficult for C9 to block those things. Like you know, Gabe Vizzle said, there's almost 1,000 things that you need to block here, including the Oblivion by the Samuel, a double Blast Tremor by Playboy Afro will be very difficult to contend with, as the Crystal Infusion gets picked up by him, meaning he's going to hit slightly harder on a couple of his abilities, including the Storm Shield Reflex, including the Storm Shield damage around him, as well as the Blast Tremor scaling too. C9 are going to start to clear out a little bit of vision where they can. Another Kraken fight will be on the cards. You feel like this might be one of the decisive fights of the game.
Well, that Kraken is on the table for them. It's on the cards. However, that massive silence does come through again from Old School so well and so good at placing those. Oblivion does come through, sleeps absolutely nobody. But look at the health bars just melting for Hollywood Hammers. That's going to be 1-2 kills picked up for them already. And Playboy Afro was just left completely alone in the back line. Starting all over in Arcade, just got ran down by Joseph and Old School. Their mobility coming out from Gabe Vizzle as well was just all too much for them to handle. I think they're just going to set to end the game here. They don't care about the Kraken. They've got the damage, what it takes here. 19, 24, 19 seconds on Archaic. One turret falls. The next one's surely soon to follow. Ace buff minions still pouring into this base. The next one's going to go down. This is going to be very close here, Scandal. I think Cloud9 have done it. They've just taken another week, and they are once again proving that they are the most dominant team in North America.
Old School for me has been absolutely golden on this Vox. Played so well with the team and obviously just dived in, unafraid to take that frontline role with the metal jacket. And it's something that a lot of Vox players don't do. Vox is one of the carries that can be aggressive, that can take these offensive maneuvers. And Old School manages to pilot that so well. C9 deserved champions this week, but Hammers did come very close.
They did indeed, and that'll be another week of the VG8 being finished here in North America. Thank you very much. We're going to jump onto the desk for one last time. You guys can take it away.
There we have it. Cloud9 managing to take this one, double the kills at the end of the game, and a confident early game composition once more coming out from them. And putting their foot down, showing to everyone that when TSM isn't in the running, they can take the North American Vainglory8 and they can prove themselves. But, I mean, you're looking funny at me there, but TSM has been the hurdle for them every other time.
One of the most backhanded compliments I've ever heard. But, I mean, it is true.
I'm just saying how it is,
I'm not going to say it's not wrong, but it was definitely. I mean, Cloud9 looked so much better this week than they did in previous weeks in terms of how they were decisive when they were winning games.
I would say a lot of the other teams look really good too. For example, like Nova, Hammers, they all took a game off Cloud9. So a lot of the other teams are playing really well too. And the fact that Rogue beat TSM 2-0, you know, like next weekend it could be anyone's weekend really.
Yeah, for sure, and definitely we've seen Cloud9 step up this week and manage to take this one, but we definitely saw a lot of teams step up, as you rightly say. I mean, Hammers had a valiant go during this final, and during the week in general, they had some excellent plays for themselves. Well, let's break down some of these replays that are going on our screens here. Yeah,
I mean, Cloud9 did an awesome job focusing on the win condition. Old School here played so well. His positioning, his aggressiveness. Once he had the metal jacket, he went in, Gabe blocking the silence, and them just being able to focus down. Joseph did make a few mistakes on Koshka, trying to stun starting, getting stunned by Active Camo, and that turned around the game for Hammers, and they got 2 turrets from Cloud9. But then after that, Cloud9 just refocused and won every fight after that. And I thought that this was Hammers' game to win because they were against a Koshka Fortress Cup and they were winning early game. But Cloud9 was just so decisive and they played so well. They focused down the front line. They either killed Cath or Archaic or starting all over. Whoever was in the front line, they were able to dive and just kill, and they performed it so well.
Yeah, it's definitely felt to me across the course of today that Cloud9 are much more comfortable playing these early game aggressive compositions than these compositions that rely on stalling out towards the late game. And we've seen that here today in this series, specifically against Hammers as well.
And it's really interesting because it used to be the opposite. Last season, they were definitely much more of a late game focused team, but now they've definitely improved their early game significantly.
Yeah, and that Gabe did an awesome job that last fight there. He actually waited for starting to active camo, and then flared in the direction that starting was running away, and then they basically got her out of the active camo and was able to burst starting down. So that's how you counter a KESTREL. Don't flare ahead of time. Wait for the active camo, flare, and then burst her down.
Yeah, Old School is going to be the MVP for that series. He did an excellent job, as he always does. Very, very consistent player, but we saw him, his hyper-aggressive Vox in that final game, really taking things down. I believe it was 8-1-5 his final scoreline. Excellent job by him and proving why he's on one of these top teams in North America.
Yeah.
Right.
There's not much follow-up to that.
I'm glad we all agree.
Excellent point.
Yeah, so let's take a look at where we stand at the end of today for North America. Cloud9 are going to be the champions of this week here in the North American Vainglory8, beating Hammers 2-1 in the final. The third place match still ongoing. It's 1 apiece between Rogue and Nova. And that is going to bring us to the end of North America, which means we need to take a look at where everybody stands now with the points. TSM still sitting comfortably at the top on 32, but Cloud9 starting to close that gap a little bit now on 24, and then you can see how close the rest of the table is. Mere points between everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the difference, it's 4 points separating 3rd place and 7th place right now. That is absolutely insane. These last 2 weeks are going to be so incredibly important for determining who gets that final spot at the Unified Live Championship.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive battle between the middle of the table right now, and literally everybody is a contender to get to the Unified Live, which is a great thing to see. In both regions, we have incredibly competitive tables, and it's very difficult to predict who those bottom 2 teams are going to